When Samuel Carter, a millionaire tech entrepreneur, opened the front door of his California mansion that crisp Monday morning, he expected the same calm start to his day. Instead, he noticed something that made his stomach drop: a purple bruise on the arm of his longtime housemaid, Elena. She tried to hide it with her sleeve, brushing it off like it was nothing. But Samuel wasn't just a wealthy man, he was a man who paid attention. And what he discovered about her life behind closed doors made him grab his phone and dial the police without a second thought. This is a story about human kindness, courage, and how one person's attention can change another person's world forever. Samuel Carter wasn't your typical billionaire. Raised in a modest home by a single mother, he knew what struggle looked like. That's why, even with his tech company booming and his name appearing on magazine covers, he always treated his staff with kindness and dignity. Elena had been working in his house for nearly 4 years. She was punctual, polite, and hardworking. She rarely spoke about her personal life, but she never once missed a day of work, not even during storms or holidays. That Monday, Samuel walked into the kitchen and saw her slightly wince while reaching for a glass on the top shelf. The sleeve of her shirt slipped up, and for just a moment, he caught a glimpse of a dark purple bruise. "Elena," he asked gently, "what happened to your arm?" She immediately pulled her sleeve down and smiled awkwardly. "Oh, nothing, sir. I slipped on some stairs." But something in her voice was oft too rehearsed, too controlled. Samuel didn't press, but his instincts told him something was wrong. Over the next few days, Samuel began to notice more. She flinched slightly when the doorbell rang. She smiled, but her eyes seemed distant. Once, she came in with a small cut near her eye, barely hidden with makeup. That was it. He couldn't ignore it anymore. After breakfast one morning, Samuel sat her down at the kitchen table and said quietly, "Elena, I don't mean to invade your privacy, but if something's happening, something that's hurting you, you don't have to go through it alone." She stared at her hands for a long time. Then, in a soft, cracked voice, she whispered, "I can't lose this job, Mr. Carter. I need it for my kids. Please, don't ask me anything else." That one sentence broke Samuel's heart. She wasn't just afraid, she was trapped. That night, Samuel couldn't sleep. He looked at the security cameras and saw Elena walking to the bus stop in the dark, her shoulders hunched. He called his private investigator the next morning, someone discreet, trustworthy. In less than 48 hours, the truth came crashing down. Elena was living with her husband, a man who had a criminal history and had recently lost his job. Neighbors reported shouting matches at night. Her kids' 2 young boys hadn't been seen playing outside for weeks. The investigator confirmed what Samuel had feared. Elena was being abused, physically, emotionally, regularly. Samuel's jaw clenched. He knew what it was like to be powerless, but he also knew what it meant to stand up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves. The next morning, he asked Elena to stay after work. She hesitated, nervous. But what happened next changed everything. "Elena," Samuel began, "I know you're in a difficult situation, but I need you to trust me." He placed a folder in front of her. Inside were the photos, the reports, and a detailed plan. "I want to help you. This ends now." Tears welled up in her eyes. She was silent for a moment before she nodded, trembling. Samuel picked up the phone and called the police. Within hours, her husband was taken into custody. But Samuel didn't stop there. He connected Elena with a legal team to ensure custody of her children. He paid for a therapist to support her healing. And he gave her a safe apartment, paid in full, for an entire year. She could barely speak when she moved in. Her kids clung to her like shadows. But slowly, the light began to return to their lives. 6 months later, Elena walked into Samuel's house not as a maid, but as a guest. Her eyes were brighter, her posture straighter, and her sons, smiling and holding her hand proudly. She told Samuel that she had started taking online courses to become a social worker, her dream, to help other women trapped like she once was. Samuel smiled and said, "You've always been the strongest person in this house, Elena. Now the world gets to see it too." The same community that once ignored her suffering now celebrated her strength. And all it took to change her life was someone who cared enough to notice. Not every hero wears a cape. Sometimes they wear an apron. And sometimes the person who saves them is just someone willing to ask a simple question: are you okay? Elena's story reminds us that paying attention can save a life. Kindness is powerful. Courage is contagious. And no matter how dark the night may feel, there's always a way out with the right hand reaching in. What are your thoughts on this story? Comment and subscribe. Lifelines.